Welcome back to another North Carolina Tar Heels football podcast here on TarHeelIllustrated.com. And if you're watching us on our super fast growing YouTube channel, that is called Tar Heel Illustrated. I'm THI publisher Andrew Jones, and joining me is THI staff writer and resident Jack, our Noah Taylor, Brandon Peay. And I call him that because Brandon's been diving deep into the football recruiting side of things lately, and you really need to check out his work. He's got some videos on the channel, on the YouTube channel, and also a bunch of stuff on TarHeelIllustrated.com. Brandon, we are here for part 6 of our 9-part series previewing Carolina's 2022 football season, which begins August 27 at home versus Florida A&M. We are 5 parts in, 6 part today. We're going to hit on the Tar Heels running backs room that changed dramatically over the weekend. Before we go there, very quick reminder, guys, for just $8.33 a month, you can be a Tar Heels insider too. It's just $8.33. Let's keep in mind, I started August 4th in this job. It was $8.33 a month for a THI annual subscription. It's still $8.33 a month. Nothing else has stayed the same price. Everything else has skyrocketed since then. We are still $8.33 a month. It gives you access to literally everything we do. And the podcasts are just a small part of it. Yeah. A lot of the really juicy stuff that we do is premium subscription only. Plus our message boards are awesome. We have a lot of real smart people. It's respectful, which you don't find on a lot of message boards. And the conversations are really, really good. I enjoy partaking in them. And our staff, that's another one of the perks. We're always on there. If you have a question for any of us, pop it on the board. We're on there to answer. We dive into football recruiting big time with Dina on football. And then, of course, basketball recruiting with David Sisk. And then remember, we go wherever the Tar Heels go. We're all over the place. So it's just $8.33 a month. You can be a Tar Heel insider too. Brandon, the running backs room was 6 deep Saturday morning. By the time everybody went to bed Saturday night, it was 5 deep. British Brooks lost for the season with a lower body injury. You hate to see it. He was a great story, a guy that came in as a walk-on. He was a special teams captain and was finally going to get his opportunity. He was a designated leader in that room, RB1 coming out of spring, in part because they needed him to lead a very, very young group. Now he's gone. All they got left, DJ Jones, Elijah Green, Caleb Hood, and the true freshman, George Pettaway and Omarion Hampton. So how do you see this shaking out now that British Brooks is out of the picture?
Yeah, so following the loss of British Brooks, which, by the way, is extremely fortunate news. I never got a chance to tell you the story, but when we were at the open practice afterwards, all you guys went to the press room to get ready for the press conference. I stayed on the field to take some more pictures. And when I was doing that, I saw British Brooks working with the 2 freshmen on drills, working on their ball security and their pass blocking and stuff. And I just thought, most people in that situation because Brooks' situation at that time is, he's the leader. He's worked so hard to get to that spot. And then these 2 freshmen come in and they're trying to take his spot. A lot of guys wouldn't be receptive to helping those guys in that situation because they know the better those guys get, the better opportunity they have to take my spot. But Brooks is a team player, and he knows by those guys developing is going to make the team better as a whole. And so he spent the time with them to develop them, even though he knew it could possibly lead to less reps for him later on. I just thought that was really cool. I thought that showed really good leadership on his behalf. But after spring, Mac Brown said that Brooks had one of the 3 running back spots that were going to get rotational reps during games. And there were 2 spots for 5 people to open, but now we got 5 guys going after 3 spots. And the running back competition, it might be the most intriguing position battle, including the quarterbacks, because we kind of have a feeling on how the quarterback battle will shake out. But when it comes to the running backs, we have no idea how things will unfold for UNC's first game against Florida A&M and those first 3 games, just like those first 3 games in general. A lot of people just assume that the freshman running backs are going to come in and take over the reps. And they very well might be the starting running backs by the end of the season. But at the beginning of the season, I wouldn't be surprised to see guys like DJ Jones and Elijah Green to come in and get some reps, because at this level, pass blocking and ball security is so important. And that's usually one of the biggest hurdles that freshmen have to get over. But you got a guy like DJ Jones, he graded out at 85 last season in his pass blocking grade, which was the highest among any UNC running back that took at least 200 snaps. So I know all the fans are excited about those two freshmen coming in and play, but before they can get on the field, they have to get good at pass block and they have to be good at ball security. Because most guys at this level, they can run the ball. When you put the ball in their hands, they can make something happen, but you have to be able to do those small things before they can get on the field.
Yeah, and DJ Jones was designated RB2 coming out of the spring. Now, I think a lot of that was the staff was smart, making the two oldest, most experienced guys in the room RBs 1 and 2 because they needed leaders in the offseason. Each group needs their leadership through the PLPs in late May, throughout June, and early July. And I think that was part of it. But I know that there's some people that disagree on our message board, but I think DJ Jones, when healthy, can be really, really good. Mm-hmm. He has shown flashes. But the problem is his biggest issue is staying healthy. It has been. And Max says, look, staying healthy is a skill. We've heard it 1,000 times. I know it's an old saying. I'll say it again. The best ability is availability. He's got to be able to play. So I suspect he'll probably take the first carry against Florida A&M. But I agree with you. The freshmen are going to push him. One of the things I've really enjoyed about covering practice since it started July 29th is that they haven't shied away from talking up the young guys. A lot of times coaches and teams, they'll say, hey, guys, don't talk up those young guys too much yet. We don't want to put all that pressure on them. But they have some skill players on offense that are on a different level. They're a healthy cut above what has been the norm that they have brought in over time. And so they're going to talk them up because they pop and they need to play. They're also in position groups that actually have needs. So running back has a need. It's an undetermined group. So that's going to make it easier for Pettaway and Hampton to get on the field. But I agree with you. I think DJJ will be one of the three in that rotation, most likely. Then I think it's going to be possibly Caleb Hood in some short yardage stuff because he was doing some of that last year. He was the third back last year before he got hurt 4 games into the season. But they might play 4. They may be very situational. When you're talking about a lot of young guys and inexperienced guys you're going to use, and Caleb Hood played 64 snaps last season, so he's still a very young guy, very inexperienced guy. You can use them situationally. There is no rule that says you only use 3 backs. Just because they had a rotation of 3 before, just because it's preferred that you have a rotation of 3 backs with the third guy being a receiving specialist, a la Romar Morris back in 2012. There's nothing that says you can't use 4. There's nothing that says you can't use 5 and play Elijah Green too.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see a lot of new wrinkles on both sides of the ball from North Carolina this year. The defense is obvious. New coordinator, they're going to maximize on all the toys they have in that room. Offensively, it's a little bit different because they're so young. They're so inexperienced. The offensive line is sort of putting that together. It's different from what it was a year ago. So we're going to see that in the running back room too. And you make a great point about pass protection. You've got to be able to protect the passer. When you've got a lot of young dudes running routes and you've got inexperienced quarterbacks, and the last thing they need is immediate duress every time they step back there. So if you have a running back that can serve as part of the pass protection and allow the passing game to play itself out on most snaps, that's the guy that's going to get on the field a lot. So I think you make a great point about DJ Jones.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think I like the point you made earlier about the young guys, the program not being afraid to talk up the young guys. That's actually a good point because before Omari, I never really got the chance to see Omarion Hampton play while he was at Cleveland High School. But during the spring, I knew he would be good because well before seeing him play, because in the spring, we would ask Mac Brown about the running back rotation. And he would talk about the guys that they were already there, but he always made it a point to mention Omarion Hampton, like that he was going to be a part of the competition, that he was going to be a part of the rotation. And usually a freshman, a true freshman that's coming in June or July, they're not going to be in the conversation in the spring. So when Mac Brown kept making it a point to bring him up, I knew I was like, he's probably a special guy. And then with George Pettaway, I wrote this before in one of my observations, but I believe he has the potential to be a very useful offensive weapon for UNC. I see him he could be a punt returner, a kick returner, a guy who can line up in the slot and act as a third receiver. I believe by the end of his college development, he's going to be a really special talent for UNC.
He has lined up in the slot at practice, though. But I think they have a thin wide receiver room. So if you have talent in the tight end room and in the running back room that can help compensate for the numbers that you don't have in the wide receiver room, then that's a way of working around it. They've got a lot of skilled guys. Like we did the tight end podcast. Copenhaver and Morales is proven. He had 5 touchdowns last year. Copenhaver is a guy that's coming. And he's someone with a lot of potential, and they like him in this offense. Very useful. He's a good blocker. He can catch the short stuff. They love him in tight situations, right? And then Nesbitt could do all kinds of stuff. They're going to use Nesbitt at receiver a lot. So they have 7 receivers right now until Antoine Green comes back. Then it would be 8. Nesbitt sort of gives them 7 plus 1. Pettaway can line up and slot. Pettaway gives them a 7 plus 2 along with Nesbitt. So we're going to see the staff utilize their parts. They've got immense skill with some of these kids. They have incredible upsides with some of these kids. Again, I'll repeat, that isn't exactly the norm for what this program has been since the late 90s. They're going to find ways to get these guys in the field and use them. It would not surprise me. At least we did see, especially some in the second half of the 2020 season, we saw Michael and Javonte on the field at the same time. So I could see DJ Jones and a Marion out there. And, oh, hey, there's Pettaway over there and a slot. I mean, I think that Phil Longo, we kind of joked the other day about this. Phil Longo sitting in his office just drawing up all kinds of crazy plays, right? We've all dreamed about drawing up the play that cannot be defended. A lot of it's very standard stuff, but it's so much of it's in pre-snap. You can run standard stuff, but with so much eye candy and pre-snap that you drive the defense crazy, the standard straight ahead stuff works. So with their personnel groupings, I can see them causing a lot of havoc.
Yeah, for sure. And a guy like Pettaway, who can catch the ball really well, is going to be a really good security blanket for the quarterback, whoever the quarterback may be, getting out in the flats and catching some, like just securing, just, the easy little dump down passes when there's nothing there to get you 5, 6, 7, or 8 yards. And, Pettaway, he has that electric athleticism that if you give him the ball in the flats, he can easily take what should be a 3-yard gain and turn it into a 70-yard run, because we've seen that. Mac Brown even mentioned in one of his press conferences this offseason that every practice, Pettaway has at least one breakaway run, like every single practice. So I think if that's something that can translate to game days, and I think the UNC will be just fine in the running back position.
As I was told by somebody, it's a run where you raise your eyebrows and you find the closest person to you and you look at them and you compare raised eyebrows.
Yeah,
that's what it is. Now, we haven't talked about Elijah Green really yet, and we did speak with him a couple of weeks ago at practice. I asked Phil Longo about him, specifically the passing element of what he does there, the passing game element, because when he was in high school, never threw the ball. He won 3 state championships in Georgia. He's a big-time runner, but you've got to be able to protect in this system. You got to be able to run a route, and you got to be able to catch the ball. Those were 3 things that he had to learn to do basically from scratch when he showed up. It took about 2 years. Elijah told me a couple of weeks ago that he felt like he finally got to where he needed to in terms of pass protection in spring ball when he picked up a fire blitz and just laid it out. They were able to complete a successful offensive play. He's like, okay, I think I got it now. Phil said that he's made tremendous strides there, but he wasn't the best in that group in pass protection. I wonder how much he moves up now with British gone, because I would assume that British was probably the best in that group and DJ Jones with pass protection. Where does Elijah Green fit in here? Because his name comes up sometimes when you talk to people about what's going on, but it doesn't come up a lot otherwise, because I think he's not the sexy name for fans. They all want to talk Pettaway. They all want to talk Hampton. Now a lot of them want to say why DJJ can't be the guy. And they're like, well, move Hood to linebacker. And then they're stuck with 2 running backs, basically, right? Yeah. But I think Elijah Green is in this conversation until I see otherwise. I think he's in this conversation because he's an incredibly smart guy. He's a really good runner. He hits his holes. He doesn't make the mental mistakes. It was just a matter of catching up certain elements of his skill set to be able to get on the field. I'm very curious to know where his game is right now.
I agree with you. I believe he's still in the running for one of the spots. I believe all the guys who are no longer in the running for one of the running back spots have already entered the transfer portal for UNC. So I think all the guys they have on their roster, they're on the roster for a reason. They have a legitimate chance to play. And like you said, Elijah Green is not a guy that we talk about very often when we bring up the running backs, but he is the perfect example of what you want from a college player. You want a guy a good athlete that comes into your program, maybe not ready to play at the college level. He sits and sits. And then they say this offseason, he's had the best offseason of his career, which is what you would want from him at this point of his career. So if he's really having the best offseason of his career, I believe he is going to get on the field because he's an older guy, he's a seasoned guy, he's a veteran guy, he knows the offense. I was reading the message boards the other day, and somebody was saying that now that British Brooks is gone, they're going to dumb down the offense. I don't know if dumb down is a appropriate word to use, but maybe scale back a little bit. But I don't think you dumb down the offense for a running back. You might dumb down the offense for if you got like a new offensive tackle in there or a new quarterback. But for a running back, I don't think you dumb down the offense. I think you just put in a less talented guy. Like if you have a 5-star running back that's a freshman that's not quite ready to play, you don't dumb down the offense for him. I think you just put in a less talented guy and take the less yards per carry, but you take less of the fatal mistakes also. So I think that's where Elijah Green is right now. I think he's a guy that you can put in there. He's not going to make those fatal mistakes for you. And because of that reason, I do think he will see some time in the rotation, and he'll have an opportunity to solidify himself. Will he do it? Only time will tell.
Well, I think the dumbing down. Mac told us, and Phil Longo told us that they're scaling it back. So, and one of the reasons they're doing that is because they have 3 freshmen that are off the charts talented. Yeah. 2 of them just arrived. Marion Hampton arrived in June. Andre Green arrived in June. Only Pettaway enrolled early in that group. So Pettaway had the advantage of the full spring, of the skill stuff of, by the time that they hit fall camp on July 29th, Pettaway was used to a lot of things. He was a little bit seasoned. The other 2 were having their first practices. As of the time that we record this, Hampton and Green have had 14 college practices. So you can't throw the full playbook at them. You have to inch them in. That's one of the reasons even the most talented kids don't step right in sometimes. It takes some time. So I do think that I think scaling back is a much better term than dumbing down, because scaling back is temporary. Dumbing down is, okay, well, can they get this or not? To me, I like the idea of scaling back because you can always add to it. It's just like cooking. Yeah, when you're cooking a sauce, man, if you put everything in right at the start and suddenly you put too much in there, there's nothing you can do about it because you can't take it out. Yeah. But you could always add to it. I think that's what we're going to see this season. And I do think that you can scale back with running back, because a lot of the scaling back isn't the physical stuff they do. It's all the pre-snap. It's the looks. It's the person. That's why I think personnel groupings will be a way out of a lot of the motions that they may run and a lot of the misdirection that they may run and that kind of thing. They can add that as they go along, but you can run basic stuff out of a ton of different personnel groupings and give the appearance of throwing a lot at somebody when you're really not. That's what I think scaling back is. And I think that that's what they're going to do, because they got to get these kids on the field because they're the most talented ones in those rooms and they need to play. And this program is in a position where they have an opportunity with just cause to play kids that just showed up and play them a lot. And you deal with some of the stuff that comes with that. You're going to get the snafus. You're going to have some plays that blow up because they cut the wrong way. Yeah. One of the freshmen he releases before pass protection, and Drake or Jacoby get clobbered. It's going to happen. But you got to live with that, because I think they're so talented. You could quickly get them up to snuff where they need to be, where you could add a lot more offensively. And by the time you roll into November, this could be what the offense that we've seen the last few years, with all the bells and whistles, all the calls, all the options, a little bit more RPO stuff, and kind of go from there. They could run a full offense by the time November comes.
Yeah. I heard Dean Chiswick say one time he doesn't want to hear about the young guys aren't ready to play because they don't understand something. If the young guys aren't ready to play, it should be a physical thing. So I think that's kind of the attitude this coaching staff has, is like, the young guys aren't playing just because physically not ready, not because they're not mentally ready. If they're not mentally ready as a coach, it's your job to get them up to snuff and get them ready to go out there and play on Saturday. So I do believe that's the mentality the coaching staff has, because I think they are trying to get the best players on the field, and they don't want somebody not knowing the playbook all the way to be the reason that they don't get on the field. So I think, I agree. I 100% agree with that assessment.
And we'll close this podcast out, Brandon, by saying we know that George Pettaway and Omarion Hampton are ready to play physically.
Yeah.
That's not an issue.
Especially Omarion Hampton.
Well, both of them, because of – I hate to do the Javonte Michael comparison. Carolina fans and Carolina media are going to do that for the next 100 years, right?
Yeah.
But they have that element. Look, the first time I saw George Pettaway in June of 2020 at a camp in Virginia Beach, and I've said this 1,000 times, I'll say it again, the first thing that jumped out to me is everything about him reminded me of Michael Carter.
Mm-hmm.
The way he plays, his mannerisms, sort of the way he talked, not as far as being a smart guy. The way he ran. I mean, his stride is very similar to Michael's, but I think he's got a notch. He has a notch more potential in every element than Michael did. That's not a knock on Michael. It's just praise on George. As far as our Merriam goes, there is a Javonte element, but my understanding is he turns a corner quicker. He can bounce outside more. And Javonte could too, but people believe that both these guys have more upside than those two did. So you're going to see him. I think you're going to see DJJ a lot too. I'm really curious to see how they handle Hood. And of course, if Elijah gets on the field, there is a place for him, perhaps. We'll have to see. Running back room is one of many that are very interesting. And obviously, I think it got more so in some respects with British going down, less respects at the same time, because there's no one has to answer the question, how many snaps will British play? At what point does British step aside and the young guys step forward? British isn't there now. So the young guys are automatically stepping forward. They will play.
Yep. That's it.
All right. He's Brandon. I'm AJ. This is part 6. Make sure you check out part 7, which will be unveiled tomorrow. If you haven't seen any of the previous ones, just go to our channel, hit the video button, and all that stuff pops up there. And there's a ton of stuff. It's not just these. So you can get lost on our channel for a long time.
Go ahead and subscribe while you're there.
Yeah. Well, as Brandon said, go ahead and subscribe, hit the notifications bell so you get updates every time we upload. Let your friends know about it. Share this video. And remember, guys, going over to TarHeelIllustrated.com for just $8.33 a month, you can be a Tar Heels insider too. He's Brandon. I'm AJ. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks.